Great. Welcome, everybody. My name is Darius Montvilla. I lead the sales organization for Trusona for the eastern part of North America. Today, we are going to be walking you through our passwordless authentication for Windows 10 capability that we are adding to our entire suite of products that remove the password from the user experience. As we start here, I just want to do a little bit of background about Trusona and kind of what we do and how we work within the enterprise. So to begin, we are a truly enterprise-wide passwordless authentication experience. We remove the password from the user experience by tying a user's identity to their smartphone. Now, before you ask any questions about can we work with other types of modalities and other types of authentication mechanisms for users that may not have a smartphone or may not want to use a smartphone, absolutely, we can. However, for the great percentage of users within an organization that do have a smartphone and do want to have a better user experience, this is a great solution for them. So the idea is to look at removing the password from the user experience as a journey. It is not something that any organization can just throw a switch and you're passwordless. We utilize our technology to integrate to a variety of different systems and a variety of different use cases to become a singular authentication mechanism for the entire enterprise. So whether that is a VPN, somebody working remotely from home on a system, or that is logging into a single sign-on solution, or whether that is calling into the help desk to get help regarding technology, all of those different use cases can be utilizing our passwordless technology. Today, we're going to be focusing really on the desktop. So we're going to be talking about Windows 10, and let's get into that. So everybody knows that as COVID has increased the reliance for workforces to work remotely, we also know that that has become a problem for the CISO as far as trying to mitigate the risk associated with such a large remote workforce. How do CISOs mitigate that risk? Well, if you have a solution that is quick to implement, simple to adopt by users, easy and simple, and uses the existing hardware on devices, that's a very big one, right? Because everybody knows that there's Windows Hello, and it works when you've got a Windows Hello device, but if you don't have Windows Hello, you may have a tough time being able to utilize a passwordless capability. And is cost effective, then we're well on the way to rolling this out for an entire organization, right? So what Gartner has said is that it's imperative for organizations to look at a strategy that is simple to implement and rolls out the passwordless capabilities across very important use cases. And probably the desktop is the easiest and lowest hanging fruit for an organization to start that process. Everybody's working from a desktop. Everybody has to be able to log into systems downstream of that that desktop login. And that's what we're going to be showing today. In a very simplified manner, that's the way it works. You log into your desktop, a variety of systems then downstream of that can automatically be logged in, depending upon how you and your organization have set up your SSO and your IAM. We can then utilize those to kind of log into systems downstream. So that's how we do it. Again, tying a person's identity to their smartphone, and we have a registration process. I would welcome anybody in this particular webinar to go ahead and take a look at getting the application, the Trusona application on your phone. They are available at the different app stores. We can then, once you download it, you can then register on it and you can see what that registration process is. Now, we obviously have different registration processes for organizations, but in this very kind of simplified manner, you can understand how that would work. It's just entering an email address. We send a one-time password to that email. You log into your email, and then we bind your identity to that particular device. That device then becomes your digital token for logging into a variety of systems. So what do we deliver right out of the box, right? So this is for what we call standard Windows 10 PCs with the TPM 2.0 module integrated that are AD joined. In other words, they are joined to your Active Directory. That's very important. This is not meant as a solution for standalone PCs or my PC that's sitting over here. That's not what it's meant for. It's meant for organizations that have a variety of different Windows 10 machines to be able to log in, right? It works when the PC is either online or offline, and we're going to show you demonstrations of both of those scenarios. And there's kind of really three scenarios. There's one where the PC is connected and everything's fine. Two, when the PC is connected, but maybe the phone isn't. And then three, when both the phone and the PC are not connected. And we'll show you demonstrations of all of those. Really cool that we have built context-aware capabilities into our module that is installed on the PC, so that the PC then understands if it doesn't have connectivity to the network, it automatically defaults to one of those non-connected methodologies to log in. We're going to be talking about our patented anti-replay technology. Anti-replay is just the assumption that there is malware on your device. It is listening for you to do something of interest, and then it goes and replays that session at a later time to gain access into your networks. And probably the most important thing is we have created a self-onboarding feature so that it doesn't require a lot to roll this out across your organization. It requires some change management pieces, some priming emails to make sure that users understand what is going on and how they will utilize this. And then we allow the user to actually onboard themselves, and we've got a whole module that does that. So it becomes a very simple process for an organization to roll this out to the users. So if we can eliminate the password from the user experience, what does that provide to you as an organization? So first of all, keyloggers are no longer a valid attack vector. If I'm not typing something into my PC, especially password, a keylogger is no longer, doesn't really work, right? Password reuse. Since the Equifax hack, what was it, 3.5 years ago now, all those passwords are still available online in the dark web. Very simple for hackers to take that information, tie it to an individual, and then try to reuse that password to gain access to your system. So again, if we don't have that password, the reuse portion of it is no longer valid. We'll talk about credential replay in just a moment. Credential stuffing, again, if I don't have a password, credential stuffing doesn't become a valid attack vector. Phishing, if I as a user do not know what my password is, I can't be phished for it. So all of that is very, very important to eliminating these different vectors. We as an organization, meaning Trusona, we do not utilize the SS7 network on the phone. We don't care what the phone number is. We don't use text messaging. So SIM swapping becomes another attack vector that isn't necessarily valid at this point. And then obviously shared secrets or lost tokens are another big piece of that. So what happens, why is it good to use Trusona, right? Why does all that weigh in your benefit? So first of all, we're utilizing your existing hardware. You don't have to go out and buy new hardware that has biometric readers or that has cameras on it, so that you can utilize what you currently have. Again, Windows Hello is a great product and it works very well, but again, it requires you to upgrade your hardware. So similarly, you don't have to worry about the cams or the biometric readers breaking, which let's face it, we all have used it, right? Some of them work and some of them don't work, and sometimes they do work and sometimes they don't. So all of that becomes irrelevant. Not utilizing the USB, we're not utilizing NFC, we're not utilizing Bluetooth. So all of those, if like your organization, like a lot of organizations, doesn't want any connectivity coming out of the PC other than network connectivity, it's a very valid solution for you. Don't have to worry about keys being lost or stolen. We don't have to worry about servers on-prem. So it becomes a very simple install, and we can really drive that total cost of ownership very quickly down. So I'm going to talk real quickly about anti-replay, and then we're going to get into demonstrations, and then right after that, we'll get into Q&A. Part of what we deliver as our solution is what we call our anti-replay technology. This is patented. This is part of every single solution that Trusona delivers, but it is very important because I want to mention this because there is no other software or authentication platform that does have this capability. So Our assumption is that there is malware on every device, and it is listening. It is listening for you to do something of interest to that hacker, right? Once you do something of interest, they record that session, they play that session back at a later time, maybe from your very similar locale, or they can do it from someplace else. But to your systems and to your networks, it looks very valid because it's the correct IP address, it's the correct username, password, it's the correct everything, right? So what we want to do is we want to eliminate that completely from the attack vector capabilities. So we utilize the idea that there is malware everywhere, but we also look at the idea that you can't step in the same river twice, right? So if I were to look at this frame that I have here, and I were to take a picture, a photograph of the river in that frame, I think you would agree that it is impossible for me to take that exact same picture again. Lighting wouldn't be the same, the river would be flowing differently, the water droplets would be in different positions. So same thing when we look at the river of data that comes off your smartphone. So we are capturing information about the smartphone. Very important that it's not PII, right? But it is information specifically about the phone. We capture the timestamp to the millisecond, the X and Y coordinates where you touch the screen, accelerometer data, compass data. Then what we do is we put that into a non-repeatable sequence, a nonce. We store it, or actually we hash it first, and then we store it. That way, if we ever see that exact same sequence of characters again, we immediately know that it is fraud, and we stop the transaction at that point. We also notify you as an organization, we notify the user, so everybody is understanding where they are. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Ken. I'm going to stop sharing here, and Ken, you can go ahead and start doing the demo, and then we'll turn it over to Q&A after that.
Okay, thanks, Darius. Can everybody see my screen okay?
Yep.
Great. So this first go around, as Darius mentioned, we support kind of all permutations of connectivity, whether both my desktop or laptop is online, as well as my phone, or maybe even an airplane use case where I've paid for connectivity for my laptop, but maybe not my phone, or even what we call beach mode, where I'm on a remote beach somewhere and neither of my devices are connected. Trusona will work in all three of these scenarios, but I'm going to start with the assumption that both devices are connected. And instead of signing in with my static credentials, you'll notice here I have the option to sign in with Trusona. So hopefully you should see my browser on the left and my phone on the right-hand side. I've already installed the Trusona app and enrolled myself, which is very easy to do, self-service enrollment process. And so when I go ahead and sign in with Trusona, I will receive a push notification to my device here shortly. And confirming my intent to log into Windows, which I will accept. And now I'm being prompted for my OS security of my device. So I have an iPhone 8 and I use Touch ID, but this would work with facial recognition or whatever your phone was natively capable of from a biometric standpoint. And as soon as I touch my my thumb to it, I'm off and running and into this particular VM, and it happens really quickly, right? Didn't have to touch the keyboard. And it's inherently multi-factor in that it's something that I have, so it's possession-based, which is my phone or my device. By the way, we do support the ability to enroll multiple devices. So if I had a phone and a tablet that I wanted to leverage, that's fine as well. So it's one factor is the possession of device. The second factor would be something that I am, which is the biometrics necessary to get past the OS security check. So let me sign out. That was kind of use case one of having connectivity across both devices. And now if I had, let's say on an airplane, and by the way, our solution is context aware. It does understand whether you're online or offline. So if I did not have connectivity, we would automatically default to kind of offline mode, if you will. And so in addition to providing primary passwordless authentication, the Trusona app also is a TOTP generator or provider that can be used not just with Windows 10, but with other applications as well. So I'm going to open the Trusona app, and I'm going to hit the hamburger menu here and go to my two-step TOTP process. I'll be prompted for my OS security. And you'll notice that I have a couple of that I've already set up, one for Amazon, which I use for my personal life here, and the other for my Trusona Windows 10. So I have my code of 351. and 172. And that will be it. Basically, just retrieve my 6-digit PIN from the Trusona app. And now this works in offline capabilities as well. So I'm not stuck if I'm on an airplane or a beach somewhere. And those were the demos that I wanted to show. Now, from a user onboarding standpoint, as Darius mentioned, we make this super simple. Basically, we make use of the Windows credential provider. We obviously put our own spin on it. So once that's been installed on the actual endpoints themselves, there's basically a Windows installer that needs to be executed by the end user. And we actually just guide him through this process, which is very easy to do. In fact, we do quite a bit of user testing, and we're about to release version 2. So I'll show you version 1 right now and how we're even enhancing this further in version 2. So in its current state, basically when I launch the setup here, it'll do a quick system check to make sure that everything is good. And it'll literally just it's been upgraded. So it literally just guides me through this process of step 1 is, hey, I need to get the Trusona mobile device. And I've already done that. We will actually have the instructions for pairing these two and scanning the necessary QR code. So all I need to do is open the Trusona app, scan this QR code, which basically sets my AD UPN to my Trusona mobile app. And then once I'm done with that, it shows me a demo of how this actually works when I go to log in again using the Trusona solution. So we do a lot of hand-holding along the way to make sure that there's no ambiguity or confusion by the end user, since this is basically a new paradigm, a new way of logging into their Windows 10 machine without the need for a username or password. All right. So with that, I will open it up to questions. I know that we already had a few come in on the chat line. But before I do so, Darius, is there anything else that I failed to mention that you would like to add?
No, we've covered it all at this point. So let's open it up to questions. Please write it in the chat, and we'll get to it immediately.
All right. So one
already. So Ken, why don't you answer the first question?
Yeah, one of the questions came in terms of is there any additional Microsoft licensing that is required to make the Trusona solution work? And the answer is no. We, again, are making use of the Windows credential provider. So there is no additional kind of Windows Hello licensing. Really, the only requirement that we have is making sure that the actual endpoint has the TPM 2.0 chip available, which is been a standard in most endpoints for 4 or 5 years now. So from a licensing standpoint, there is nothing else that needs to be purchased or acquired. Another question is, are we collecting any, Darius went over anti-replay, are we collecting any PII during that process? And that is easy, short answer is no. We're only collecting kind of telemetry data from the actual device itself, no PII necessary.
We got a great question from Debbie here. What would security awareness training consist of if phishing attacks are no longer a threat? Well, it'd be pretty easy at that point, Debbie. I'll tell you what. Yeah, I know most security awareness trainings, that's the big thing, is understanding what is a phishing attack, what it is not, how do you pick one out, etc. So yeah, definitely it would make things very simple. Security awareness training would become a much simpler process at that point. We have another question here. Can I still use password to log in? Yes, that's the thing. One thing that we are doing when we do this entire Windows passwordless capability is we can coexist. Ken is pointing to it right there. We can coexist with either a different sign-in option. So if you, as an organization, wanted to have certain individuals have the ability to log in via Trusona, no problem. But if you wanted other individuals to continue to log in with a username and password, that is entirely up to you. One thing that we have said continually is that this is a journey, right? It's not a one size fits all for any organization. It is, we know that it will take time to get to a totally passwordless future, but these are the beginning steps, and we work with our customers very diligently to make sure that the user experience for all users across an enterprise is very simple, and we work with you to figure out what's the best for you as an organization. We had one more question here that came in. How is this different than Windows Hello? Well, Windows Hello is a very good product, but as I kind of mentioned in the very beginning, it requires you to upgrade your hardware, right? And some organizations are fine with that. Some organizations, still glue the USB ports and, turn off Bluetooth and turn off NFC. So for those organizations, Windows Hello is a non-starter, right? So what we can do is we can coexist with Windows Hello if you have those on certain devices, but we can entirely replace it for organizations that feel it is not an applicable solution. So that's one.
Yep. Another, sorry, Darius, didn't mean to interrupt you. Were you finished? Got another good question that came in. Can this be deployed via an enterprise MDM solution? And the answer is absolutely. So I'll answer this in two parts. From a mobile device standpoint and a Trusona app standpoint, this could absolutely be centrally deployed using really any vendor's MDM solution. Also, from an actual Windows 10 desktop or endpoint standpoint, there's a lot of points in that statement I just made. Whether you're using SCCM or Tanium or choose your own tooling there from an endpoint monitoring standpoint, you can absolutely use that to deploy the necessary credential provider to the desktop level as well to make sure that this is it's truly an enterprise-ready solution that can be deployed at massive scales. So do we have a VDI login demo? So good question. We do not have a demo of that. In fact, the Windows 10 desktop is our first foray into the operating system world. We started with Windows 10 since that's obviously the predominant solution within most enterprises. However, soon coming, we will have support for not just VDI, but different operating systems between Mac OS. We're seeing higher demands for Chromebooks as well. And then obviously the various flavors of Linux or Unix, which will also be, it is on our roadmap as well. But the next solution coming out in addition to Windows will be our Mac OS offering, since that seems to be certainly gaining a lot of traction within a lot of enterprises.
Yeah, and in regards to VDI also, we've got two organizations that are very heavy VDI users that are asking us to become development partners, and that's something that we are probably going to move up a little bit quicker in our roadmap, just because we have people that want that sooner rather than later. So we try to work with our development partners and provide solutions to them as quickly as we can. Super. Any other questions? Okay, Josh?
Great. Thanks, Darius and Ken. All right. Well, thank you for joining us, everybody. And we'll have a copy of this recording on the Trusona website and the Radiant Digital website. All right. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.